Xilonen is the most pool, but I'm skipping her. Here's why. Welcome guys to Arguments Winners channel, and today I want to talk about Xilonen. I don't want to make this story short. I actually recorded this video before and I forgot that it was muted, so actually it spoke like a dumbass for no reason, but y'all don't care about that, so let's just get into the video. And I want to talk about Xilonen. So if you guys are wondering, she is a moss pool, definitely. She's going to be there to either be just like another Kazuha or completely power creep him. She is a character that will deal more damage and will be a better character the more you invest in her. I think there's a lot of whale potential there to be had, but even if you pull her at C0, she's going to be able to do her job as a support pretty decently, especially if you fall under this category. So the reason why I'm skipping Xilonen is for the following reason. I believe she's a character that, although being Geo, she is targeted for those that play national teams, such as Hydro characters, Pyro characters, Electro characters, and Cryo characters. If you're somebody that has invested in your account playing with these type of characters, pulling these type of characters, then by all means, I think that Xilonen is a must pull. However, if you're somebody that has been investing in physical damage characters, in geo damage characters, or dendro damage characters, or anemo damage characters, then pulling for Xilonen will do you no good, and she's definitely not going to be worth it. She's going to be a dead character in your account until you invest in the characters that she wants to support. Like I said before, she operates kind of like a Kazuha, so essentially she'll be able to buff your damage and, well, depending on the constellations, but at least she'll be able to shred the resistances of those characters that she's able to have in her team. So I'd like to talk about her kit in just a second here, and I will talk about the constellations too. So let's see. As you guys know, Xilonen is a Geo sword user, in which scales on her defense. And she can also be an on-field DPS, and her skill will be able to reduce those elemental resistances on nearby enemies based on allies' elements. And her burst can heal. So she'll be able to put up some damage, shred resistances, and kind of take care of your security needs by providing you with some healing. So her basic attack is standard. However, during Night Soul, she enters that Blade Roller mode that she runs really fast, and her normal attacks and plunge attacks will also deal geo damage, which scales on her defense. Skill: she'll deal damage. She'll enter that Night Soul mode and have 3 recorded sound samples. They all will start being Geo, and depending on the characters you have in your party, they will be able to change with those elements that you have added. And she enters that, she has those samples. If you switch your character, the character that is active will enjoy all those benefits of having those elemental resistances, although it's resistance shred. Although it's important to know that she applies the resistance shred to absolutely all the enemies that are close to her, and regardless of which character is active. So at all times, you're going to be shredding. If you have, let's say, a Cryo, a Pyro, and a Hydro characters, you're gonna be shredding the resistance of all 3 at all times. So she has those 3 samples, and her burst. Oh my god, her burst is gonna cost 60 energy and has a 15-second cooldown. It's gonna deal some damage, and depending of how many characters of different elements you have, it's gonna deal a different job. If you have 2 or more characters that are different elements, she'll be able to heal the characters active on a certain interval. If you have less than 2 different sound samples, she's just going to be dealing more damage. So there's not a big reason for you to do this in the first place, but you might want to be able to do it. So the passive: while in Night Soul, her normal plunge attacks gain buff. At least 2 different sound samples will gain 35 extra Night Soul points, so you have more duration on your E. If you have less than 2 different elements, then she'll just deal an increased 30% damage. That's part of her passive. When you enter your Night Soul point max and you trigger the Night Soul burst, which is whenever you have like a character from Natlan, she will gain an extra 20% defense for 15 seconds, a nice little buff. You can switch to Xilonen during movement, and she'll be able to take over. You can jump, climb, run, and it doesn't consume stamina for her, so it's pretty good. Her plunge attacks are always based on defense. And see what else. Yeah, so that's pretty much about it when it comes to her kit. I do want to read you guys something about the constellations, because this is a character that, just like you said so far, you can see that she's a pretty good character. She shreds resistances, she heals, and she can even put out some damage. Pretty much similar to Kazuma, except that she's not going to be able to group any characters. But her constellations are where the whale trap are. So let's read C1. Whenever she uses a Night Soul point, her Night Soul blessing will be extended. Oh, wait a second. When she uses a Night Soul point or phlogiston, her Night Soul blessing state will decrease by 30%, and her Night Soul point time limit is extended by 45%. Additionally, when Xilonen's source samples are active, she can also increase nearby active characters' interruption resistance. So essentially, she'll be able to use less resource and last longer. C2. So that just gives you an extended duration for those elemental shreds in case you want to do like longer rotations. And then there's a nice little interruption resistance that will give her a little bit more like a shielding capability, not just healing, but nothing to go crazy about. C2. When Xilonen's Geo source samples will always remain active. So regardless of how many characters you have, there's only 3 samples. If you have, for example, 3 characters of these different elements, you will no longer have the Geo sample, so you're not going to buff herself. But with C2, she always have a Geo source sample. And additionally, with her other source sample active, all nearby characters will gain these effects corresponding to the source sample that they have. The Geo, 50% extra elemental damage, that's always going to be there. Pyro, extra 45% attack. Hydro, 45% max HP. Crit damage for cryo users. And 25 energy and decrease elemental burst cooldown by 6 seconds for electro players. Absolutely nuts. Those buffs are absolutely crazy, and I believe that normally people don't go for C2s. Those that do are definitely whales. I normally don't go for C2s. I normally pull for like C1 and weapon if I really like a character. And unless it's like an Archon that I love, I usually don't go for C2. I remember with Nahida, since the start of Sumeru, I farmed and saved and didn't pull for nobody and waited until Nahida came. And when she came, I pulled her and got her up to C4. And then I saved all my progems and waited for her to come again and got the C6. So it's possible to do it free to play, but definitely you would have to have saved for a long time. It's no longer enough time to probably get this unless you're insanely lucky or you pay money. C4. When you use her ult, she'll grant all nearby party members a buff that lasts 15 seconds, and characters with this buff will deal 60% of her defense as normal charge and plunging attack damage, but it can only happen 6 times. And you can apply it those 6 times per character. So each character in your party will be able to do it. This enables multiple DPS team comps, especially counting that C2 will buff, C1 will extend duration, and just her normal kit will decrease the elemental shreds, and her normal kit will heal you. And with the C1, you have interruptions resistance. Having her is like having a whole party of support characters. You're having elemental resistance, you're having buffs, you're having shield, you're having heals, and now you can focus on filling your party with DPS characters that will all benefit from these buffs and will deal extra damage based on her defense. Pretty similar to Junjing, except that Junjing does do a better job on single DPS buffing, and her buff will have more instances than 6 attacks, but it's only limited to normal attacks. So this is honestly pretty broken. Pretty broken. I feel like if you invest on her, your account will be permanently stronger. But who has C4? You know what I mean? It's not a free-to-play thing. You know, this is like whale bait, or you've been saving for this woman since the beginning of the game. So C6, whenever she uses her E, she will not use any resource. So essentially she's stuck in that E for 5 seconds. And during this time, she will deal 300% of her defense as normal plunging attack damage. and she will heal characters by 120% of her defense every 1.5 seconds, and she can only gain this buff every 15 seconds. This makes the healer, the buffer, the shredder, elemental shredder, the shielder of your team. All of those things that she is, she'll be on top of that a DPS as well. And while she's doing it, she'll heal the entire party, and she'll deal a shit ton of damage. So if you have C6, she'll not only do all of the supporting roles, but she'll also do a DPS role. And again, I think she's going to be the one that really enables that full DPS oriented party. You can have a full party of DPSs, and I think in order to get that, you should get to at least C4. Once you're at C4, you can try this build. If not, just treat her as a regular healer buffer. So you still want to be able to play with other characters. I wouldn't recommend playing Xilonen C1 or C0 with a party full of DPS. It's not going to be enough. But once you get to C4, that's when it really gets going. And C6, you're giving her an extra role, which is DPS. Sorry. Anyways, big whale, big whale bait. If you like to spend money, this is your shot. If you don't like to spend money, then C0 is pretty good, but she won't be able to do all these crazy things. As for myself, I think she's going to be an easy skip. I'm excited for the Archon. I'll see if Horrorverse can make me do something else, but for now, that's what I'm going to do. Thank you for watching. See ya.